Welcome to Sew Very Easy. My name is Laura, and it is the beginning of the month, which means it's time for our block of the month. And this block of the month is called Shades of Gray, and it's from Quilting Confections. And I'll put a link in the description so you can get this free block. Now, what's really nice about this block is it consists of half square triangles. So it's a pinwheel and a half square triangle. However, pinwheels are made with half square triangles. Very simple, very easy, and it's only 4 colors. Let's get started. So the materials you're going to need, it's very simple. You need 2 squares for each block at 6.5 inches. And you have a dark and a medium. And draw a line right down the center of this block because you are going to sew on each side of that line a 1/4 inch. And you're going to do the same thing to the second pile that you will need. This block size is 4 inches. And you're going to need 4 blocks at 4 inches of the blue, and you're going to need 4 blocks of 4 inches at the gray. Put the blocks together, draw a line down the center, because again, you are going to sew on each side of the line. So the construction for both these blocks is the same. It just is going to be a different measurement. So once you've drawn your line, you're able to take it and sew a 1/4 inch from this center line. Then you get to cut right down that center, and that will give you 2 blocks. And they will actually become your half square triangles. Now, once you have the blocks already cut like this, you need to square them to size. So now you have your sewn seam already here, and you're going to use the sewn seam as the measurement, not the cut seam. And I'm going to take this block and I want to make it equal 3-inch square. So I'm going to use the solid 3-inch, not a 3.5, because the 3 is going to go right on that line. That line matches that line. And you're going to just put it right on the line, and you will trim off that extra. And while you still have the rotary cutter in your hand, take time and cut off the little ears. If you cut off the ears first, before you press this open, you will see that the dog ears will be missing. And it will make it a lot easier to piece. So let's get these sewn and cut. The 4-inch blocks are going to be trimmed down to 3 inches. The 6.5-inch square is going to be trimmed down to 5.5 inches. And press your seams to the darkest fabric. So let's say you don't have one of these rulers and you still want to square this up. You can use any square ruler. You could even use a long ruler if you want, but a square one's nice because it does have this 45-degree angle in it. And if you're going to square this up to 5.5 inches, well, the first thing you really need to do is trim off one side so that it's nice and square. And keep that center line right down exactly on your 45 because they're both 45-degree lines. So now we have that one side trimmed off. And you can either turn the ruler or turn the fabric, and then you're going to line. If this block is going to be 5.5 inches, you need to find your 5.5 inch mark, match up the cut edge that you've already cut up nice and square, making sure that that line is still straight right on that seam, and then you're able to trim off that extra. Now your block is a perfect 5.5 inch square. And you can do this with any size block at all. So now we have our 2 1/2-inch square triangles, the large ones, and these are measured to 5.5 inches, and we have 8 half square triangles, and these are measured to 3 inches. Now we get to put it together. For each pinwheel, you are going to need 4 of these half square triangles. So if you think of this as a center point, if you were to have a pin in here, you need to take each one of these squares and literally just move it all the way around. So again, it's just going to go this way, and this one is going to go this way. And that is going to put those fans all in the right direction. So now let's start it with the gray on the outside. So you can see now you end up with the pinwheels in two different directions. You have the pinwheel going in this direction and you have the pinwheel going in this direction. So it is important to decide which direction you want to go and then just maintain that throughout the quilt or the block. So I'm going to choose the pinwheel going in this direction. So I'm going to take this to the machine. I'm going to sew these two blocks together in here, and then I will sew the blocks here. So just take them to the machine, and because the seams are opposing, they're going to nestle really, really nice. So I've sewn the two together, and then I've sewn the center. Now in order to make this nice and flat, you can remove a couple of stitches. You can either pick them out like this, but chances are just a little push with your hand and it will come out on its own. And by just pushing them apart, it will give a pinwheel. So you have a pinwheel and a pinwheel. And having all those seams nice and flat, this will prevent it from having a big bump when you go to quilt it. And you don't need to trim that thread, just leave the thread alone and give it a nice press. So we have the two pinwheel blocks done. Now we just need to add the larger ones, and these will be the same size. Now we can put the block together the same way. Sew these two blocks together here, and then you're going to sew again down the center, joining those blocks together. And what you did there for this, you want to do the same for there. So let's do this block in another color variation, and let's make 4 of them. So here's the original block, but I've made it in another color variation, and I've joined 4 together. And by joining them together, it looks like a solid block in the center. However, you did not have to join them together this way. You could have made a pinwheel go in the corner here, so that you would have had 2 pinwheels and then your 2 larger half square triangles. However you do it, it really is a fun block. And add a nice big border, well, you have yourself a nice little table topper. So no matter how you put it together, it's a fun and easy block to do. Thank you for joining me today on Sew Very Easy. Feel free to subscribe, and as always, come on back and let's see what we're sewing next time in the sewing room. Bye for now.